Today on the Giraldo Show, we are discussing Bernie Sanders and his unfortunate health problems, the current 2020 Democratic nomination polls, the movie Joker, how Adam Schiff knew about the whistleblower allegations well before the complaint was filed, and how the New York Times bombshell accidentally blew up the whistleblower story. And again, that will all be discussed today. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you are listening to The Giraldo Show. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you are listening to The Giraldo Show. Before I get into the news of today, I just want to give a quick thank you to everyone who has supported me so far. As of the recording of this episode, we are at 203 downloads across all platforms, obviously not including SoundCloud and YouTube. And I've noticed YouTube has gained a large following, so thank you to everyone who supported me on any platform. And please continue to support as I will continue to try to bring you the best news coverage. But let's get right into the story of today because there is a lot. The big story of the day: Bernie Sanders has a heart procedure and he has to cancel some campaign events for now. Now, in yesterday's episode, I talked about how Bernie Sanders' campaign is falling in terms of Elizabeth Warren's. Elizabeth Warren is picking up a lot more traction than Bernie Sanders in terms of people that are voting on that extreme left side. I will get into the polling numbers, the most recent poll numbers, in just a second, but I'm going to talk about Bernie Sanders. And before I get into anything, we have to recognize that whenever someone has a health problem, no matter how different our political opinions are, we always need to make sure that we all care for each other. And my prayers go out to Bernie Sanders. I hope he has a quick and speedy recovery. But I'll go ahead and get into what exactly happened. So this is according to AP News. Bernie Sanders' campaign said on Wednesday that the Democratic presidential candidate had a heart procedure for a blocked artery and was canceling events and appearances until further notice. The 78-year-old Bernie Sanders was taken to a Las Vegas hospital after he experienced chest discomfort during a campaign event Tuesday and sought medical evaluation. 2 stents were successfully inserted, and Sanders is conversing and in good spirits, according to the campaign. Sanders tweeted on Wednesday afternoon that he was feeling good. "I'm fortunate to have good health and great doctors and nurses helping me to recover." Then, sounding one of his favorite themes from the campaign trail, he added, "None of us know when a medical emergency might affect us, and no one should fear going bankrupt if it occurs. Medicare for all." I'm not going to get into any of the politics that Bernie Sanders is interested in. We can get into that in later episodes. This news story is just recovering over his heart procedure and the stents that were put in. Now, here's the thing. Bernie Sanders is 78 years old, so you expect people of a higher age to have more medical problems, and some people argue that it's not fair to judge people on their ability to govern based on their age, because that's ageist, because you're claiming that they could have more health problems, even though, unfortunately, we have Bernie Sanders here having health problems. Sanders' campaign wouldn't say whether the candidate had suffered a heart attack before the blockage was opened, but a doctor not involved in the care said, if not, Sanders could expect to be back to a normal busy schedule in about a week. So, looks like it's going to be good news for Bernie Sanders. We're going to have his campaign coming back, even though, as I will get into in just a quick second, his campaign and his national overall is going down. The health issue comes as Sanders has been trying to turn a corner after a summer that saw him eclipsed as the premier liberal in the field by Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. Sanders has dropped well behind Warren, who is 70, and former Vice President Joe Biden, who is 76, in most polls, and recently reshuffled his staffing in early states to become more competitive. So we're seeing Bernie Sanders trying to revive his campaign by getting other staffers, and I think at this point, we need to just worry about Bernie Sanders' health. I think it's horrible what has happened to him. Godspeed to him. All prayers go out to him. Again, politics should not get in the way of how we treat other people. And I just say, Bernie Sanders, I hope you get well. If someone who supports Bernie Sanders listens to this, I hope that you tell your campaign that people on the conservative side, we're not against you. We want the best in everyone. We want everyone's health to be perfect. And Bernie Sanders, I wish you the best. Okay, let's go into the national polls. These were very recently polled. The most recent numbers are from actually today, October 2nd. So here are the national poll data. And I'm going to go based on what my information was last episode, which is posted a couple of weeks back. Joe Biden is still in the lead at 26%. This is compared to the 29% that he was at before. This was about before the end of August when I posted that episode. Warren has had a huge jump. She was at 18.8%. back in at when I posted that episode. She's now at 24.4% in the national votes. Bernie Sanders went up a little bit to 16.7. Pete Buttigieg is at 5.6. Kamala Harris is at 4.7. Andrew Yang had a big jump going up to 3.3. Beto O'Rourke is at 2.1%. Cory Booker is at 1.4. Julian Castro is at 1.3. Tulsi Gabbard is at 1. Amy Klobuchar is at 1. Bennett and Steyer are both at less than 1%. So Biden has a little bit of a lead, but it's slowly diminishing. Elizabeth Warren had a almost 6% increase from the last time that they were that a polling number was added. So great news for the Warren campaign, bad news for the Biden campaign. It looks like my prediction could become right. Again, we still have a long time before the Democratic nomination comes out, but for the moment, Elizabeth Warren looks like the person that the Democrats are going to nominate. So that's going to be interesting to see what Elizabeth Warren versus Donald Trump is going to be in the presidential debate. I have real interest in watching those debates to see what is actually going to be said. Okay, next story of the day. The movie Joker is coming out on Friday. I personally am very excited. I'm a big Joaquin Phoenix fan. I feel he's a great actor. I know he does support Bernie Sanders, so obviously, again, differences in political perspective, but I don't let that affect me when judging someone based on their acting skills. I think Joaquin is a fantastic actor. He was great portraying Johnny Cash in the movie Walk the Line, and he's also had other great roles in the movie Her. I just recently watched that. He had a great role. He's now going to be Joker in this movie. But there's an update that multiple cities are deploying police amid fears of attacks. Just days out from its big premiere, Warner Brothers' standalone DC film Joker has some communities on edge, with law enforcement officials in both Los Angeles and New York City, and even military officials on some bases, taking preventive action in fear of another Joker-inspired mass shooting. Now, this is obviously coming based on the 2012 mass shooting at the screening of The Dark Knight Rises in Aurora, Colorado. And that shooting has sparked some controversy in terms of the Joker movie that's going to come out today, because obviously the Joker, one of the most infamous DC characters, very evil, very psychopathic, and the people in Los Angeles and New York City are afraid that psychopathic behavior from the Joker could potentially cause another Dark Knight shooting. 5 family members of victims of the Aurora shooting, which left 12 people dead and 70 injured, sent a letter last week to Warner Brothers CEO Ann Sarnoff, calling on the studio to be a part of the growing chorus of corporate leaders who understand that they have a social responsibility to keep us all safe, and end political contributions to candidates who take money from the NRA and vote against gun reform. Around the same time that the letter to the studio was being penned, military officials issued warnings to service members about potential attacks at screenings of the highly anticipated film. Posts on social media have made reference to the involuntary celibate extremist, replicating the 2012 theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado. At screenings of the Joker movie at nationwide theaters, a September 18th memo from U.S. Army officials to service members warned. This presents a potential risk to DoD personnel and family members, though there are no known specific credible threats to the opening of the Joker on October 4th. As reported by Gizmodo, a separate memo sent by Army officials a few days later said Texas law enforcement presented credible intelligence of such a threat. My opinion on this, if Los Angeles and New York City want to do this, I mean, they're more than free to do that. Do I think there's going to be another outrage as the Aurora shooting? The Aurora shooting was a person who was not right in the head, who happened to shoot up a theater at a place where he knew, first of all, that no one would have a gun, and second of all, where he knew that someone would call out that action as being because of the movie. Do I think it's going to happen again? I think it's unlikely, but I think it could potentially happen again. But again, this is why Los Angeles and New York City have the police. They're going to send preventive measures to try to prevent that. Do I think it's a useful prevention? Potentially. Again, we won't know what's going to happen until it happens, but that's why Los Angeles and New York City are sending in police officers to try to prevent anything from occurring. Will that disrupt with movie watching? It could, but again, preventive measures, these are their own cities. They can really do what they want with their own police members. The latest development in the Joker controversy involves law enforcement officials in both New York City and Los Angeles. The New York Post reports Monday that NYPD Chief of Patrol Rodney Harrison has directed all the city's precincts to provide police coverage at the Big Apple theaters showing the movie. The thriller starring Joaquin Phoenix will be screened Wednesday at Alice Tully Hall at Lincoln Center during the New York Film Festival, and officers have been instructed to cover, the paper reported, citing police sources. According to sources, uniformed patrol cops will also be sent to AMC theaters throughout the city for screenings of the comic book-inspired movie, which officially opens in theaters across the country Friday, but is showing in some city theaters Thursday, which is tomorrow. Police department told the Hollywood Reporter that they have no knowledge of any specific or credible threats at this time, but felt compelled to prepare for potential violence due to the associations of the film. The NYPD told the outlet, "There are no specific or credible threats at this time, and these events will continue to be closely monitored. Any additional personnel will be deployed as needed." The Hollywood Reporter notes that the report of the NYPD's cautionary moves follows Los Angeles police announcing that its department would take similar actions in the wake of a wave of unease the dark Warner Brothers film has evoked for some after 3 more mass shootings took place over the summer, and in light of the film's direct connection to a mass shooting that took place 7 years ago. So again, it's preventive measures from these cities to send people to movie theaters to try to prevent any crazy person from getting in with a gun. Again, these cities, they have the freedom to do what they want. That's why they are the cities. They can send police officers to the theater if they think there could be a potential threat or potential violence, even though nothing has really been reported. There's no credible or direct threat to someone trying to shoot someone. The criticism surrounding the film has revolved mainly around concerns about glorifying or inspiring more incel violence. The September 18th Army memo, which highlighted the incel threat, described them as individuals who express frustration from perceived disadvantages to starting intimate relationships, and who idolize violent individuals like the Aurora movie theater shooter, and the Joker character, the violent clown from the Batman series. So the criticism that is coming from this film, similar criticism from the Batman movies, where it's saying that the craziness of these movies are going to incite violence, they're going to get people out there to start shooting up people, which I think is kind of false. I mean, if you interpret a movie to that extent, you probably could potentially have a problem mentally, because if you interpret, it's like interpreting speech in such a way to where you go out and commit violence. If that speech doesn't directly call for violence and is in no way calling for violence, if you interpret the speech to commit violence, it's your fault. It's not the movie's or speech's fault. The statement reads that the Warner Brothers sent a statement last week, and it reads, "Gun violence in our society is a critical issue, and we extend our deepest sympathy to all victims and families impacted by these tragedies. Our company has a long history of donating to victims of violence, including Aurora, and in recent weeks our parent company joined other business leaders to call on policymakers to enact bipartisan legislation to address this epidemic. At the same time, Warner Brothers believes that one of the functions of storytelling is to provoke difficult conversations around complex issues. Make no mistake, neither the fictional character Joker nor the film is an endorsement of real-world violence of any kind. It's not the intention of the film, the filmmakers, or the studio to hold this character up as a hero." So Warner Brothers releasing a statement saying that they're not endorsing any types of violence. Obviously, no studio, no company is going to directly endorse violence based on a product that they release, but they have to make sure that they clarify that to make sure that nothing backfires on them. So that's the whole situation with the Joker film. I personally am excited to see it. I want to see how Joaquin Phoenix does. I'm hearing some okay reviews. I'll just go ahead and have to see what happens when I watch the movie. Okay, next story. We're going to go ahead and talk about Adam Schiff and his knowing of the whistleblower allegations before the complaint was filed. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, a Democrat from California, learned about the allegations that a CIA officer was wanting to make against Donald Trump days before the official filed an official whistleblower complaint. From the New York Times, they report, "The early account by the future whistleblower explains how Mr. Schiff knew to press for the complaint when the Trump administration initially blocked lawmakers from seeing it. Before going to Congress, the CIA officer had a colleague convey his accusations to the agency's top lawyer. Concerned about how that avenue for airing his allegations was unfolding, the officer then approached the House Intelligence Committee aide, alerting him to the accusation against Mr. Trump." So the whistleblower went to Mr. Schiff before actually filing an official complaint, so a little bit weird there. You would think that the whistleblower would have filed their complaint well before telling anyone else about it, because it could potentially prevent people from outside sources from seeing this as a potential conspiracy theory, but we'll go ahead and continue with the story. The Times notes that the House staff member who advised the CIA officer to get a lawyer and to file an official whistleblower complaint informed Schiff of what the whistleblower was alleging against the president. The New York Times adds, "The whistleblower's decision to offer what amounted to an early warning to the Intelligence Committee's Democrats is also sure to thrust Mr. Schiff even more forcibly into the center of the controversy. By the time the whistleblower filed his complaint, Mr. Schiff and his staff knew at least vaguely what it contained." So this is going to, as the New York Times reports, is going to stir up some controversy, because Adam Schiff knew before an official complaint was registered about what the whistleblower was going to say. Trump says on Wednesday, "We don't call him Shifty Schiff for nothing. He's a shifty, dishonest guy." Maybe not the best thing for the president to say, especially when he's under impeachment, but I do understand where he's coming from. Adam Schiff knowing about these allegations before the whistleblower comes out with them is another situation entirely, and it's definitely going to spark some controversy. This is what Trump tweets after finding out what the whistleblower has happened and after fabricating quotes from the phone call with the Ukraine. Trump tweets, "Congressman Adam Schiff should resign for the crime of, after reading a transcript of my conversation with the president of Ukraine, parentheses, it was perfect, parentheses, fraudulently fabricating a statement of the president of the United States and is reading it to Congress as though mine. He is sick." Trump obviously is correct in most of this. Adam Schiff made up a lot of stuff about what Trump said on the phone call, and he put it on national media. So a lot of mainstream media is promoting what Adam Schiff says, and it's really distorting what Trump actually said in the transcript. For people who didn't read the transcript, I had an episode about it, and I linked to the transcript in that episode. So make sure you actually read the transcript before you listen to any mainstream media, even though it came out last week, and at this point, you've either read it or you've heard mainstream media cover it. So it's a bit late. To continue on with the Ukraine scandal, the president of the Ukraine and Ukraine's foreign minister, Vladimir Pristaliko, have both stated that Trump did not pressure anyone on the phone call. Nowhere in the transcript did Trump ask Ukraine to manufacture dirt on Biden, and Ukraine was not even aware that the U.S. was reviewing the aid package to Ukraine until over a month after the phone call transpired. So we have the president of Ukraine and the foreign minister of the Ukraine stating publicly that Trump did not pressure them on the phone call and that they weren't even aware that the U.S. was considering retracting the aid until a month after the phone call actually happened. So the reaction to this report from the New York Times was pretty intense, with many correctly noting that those in the political right had suspected that Schiff had coordinated to some extent with the whistleblower prior to the complaint being filed, and this is correct. Adam Schiff knew about the whistleblower report well before it was filed, so that's going to spark some controversy, and so most people on the right did predict that Adam Schiff had something to do with it, considering that he did distort so many words from the president. RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel tweets, "This is a stunning indictment of this impeachment charade. Schiff got a heads up on all this. His team then advised the whistleblower how to proceed, like getting a Clinton/Schumer lawyer who donated to Biden. Who's colluding now?" So Ronna McDaniel, correct there. Schiff got a heads up on the whistleblower report. Bad news for Adam Schiff. We'll go ahead and see what happens because of that. Although I'm not sure how much the mainstream media is going to focus on that, considering that all they're really focused on is really bashing down Trump. Trump has just been in the news constantly with the whistleblower report and with the Ukraine scandal, and we'll eventually see if the House goes through with impeachment. That's going to be it, I think, for today's episode. Make sure to give the episode a like and make sure to follow it on any social media or on any platform that you listen to. Once again, prayers out to Bernie Sanders. Hopefully he can make a recovery. Hopefully he can be back on the presidential nomination campaign. I will give you some more news tomorrow. Thank you for listening once again. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you're listening to The Giraldo Show.